Good afternoon, dear students. As you know that your UT2 examination will held since 16th of September. So, in this reference, we are revising the syllabus. As in this week, we have started the revision of the literature part in Honeycomb, and we have already completed 2 chapters. Now, today I will give you the summary of the 3rd chapter of the syllabus, Quality, from Honeycomb. It is a very important story written by a famous English dramatist, poet, as well as essayist, John Galsworthy. John Galsworthy is a famous name in the history of English literature. So, as the title of the chapter shows that the quality, it is the story of a cobbler, which is directly related to the writer's personal life. The writer was related to this cobbler since his childhood. ये जॉन गल्सवर्दी के बचपन की कहानी है एंड इट इज़ अ ट्रू इवेंट ऑफ हिज लाइफ. उसके जीवन की एक सच्ची कहानी है जो उसने एक मोची, अ कॉबलर हु वाज अ ट्रू आर्टिस्ट, एक ऐसा आर्टिस्ट था हु वाज डिवोटेड टू हिज आर्ट. जूते बनाना इस कॉबलर के लिए, हिज नेम वाज जैसलर, वाज नॉट अ प्रोफेशन. He was not a person who was professionally related to this art. But in other words, we can say that Gessler was a true artist who was always devoted to his art. Gessler जो है वो एक आर्टिस्ट था और जूते बनाना उसके लिए एक कला थी. Since his childhood, the writer was directly related to Mr. Gessler because he used to mend the boots of his father also. So, the writer was also greatly sympathized with this artist. उसके जीवन की एक कहानी है. राइटर की जो सहानुभूति थी वो पूरी तरह से जैसलर के साथ थी. Who was a German. He was related to Germany, but he was running a shop in a market of the busy street of London. लंदन में उसकी एक जूते की दुकान थी and he always made the shoes what he was ordered. जो कुछ जैसलर को ऑर्डर दिया जाता था, जैसलर हमेशा वही चीज़ बनाता था. So, since his childhood, the writer was related to Mr. Gessler, or many a time has been passed, and when the writer was a little boy and Mr. Gessler was a young man, with the passing of time, the writer always ordered the shoes and he always wear the shoes made by Mr. Gessler. Gessler was a person who was directly related to this profession, and he was greatly impressed with the artist, with the art of this artist. Now the writer is telling us the story of Gessler, that how he was suffering in his life. वो अपने जीवन में कितना परेशान था. जैसलर की दुकान किराए की दुकान थी, and Gessler was a person who never took the help of the advertisement. He was an artist who was not ready to compromise his principles of business. उसने जीवन में कभी अपने जो सिद्धांत थे उनसे समझौता नहीं किया और उसके शूज़ की जो क्वालिटी थी कभी उनसे समझौता नहीं किया. He never compromised with the quality of shoes. That was the reason this artist was devoted to his art. राइटर हमेशा जो है जेस्लर की दुकान पे विजिट करता था और ही ऑलवेज यूज टू गिव द ऑर्डर ऑफ डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ बूट्स एंड जेस्लर ऑलवेज मेट द बूट ऑफ द राइटर in a very good manner, and he never compromised with the quality of his work. This was an art to Mr. Jessler. Mr. Jessler के लिए जूते बनाना एक कला थी, एक आर्ट थी. यही कारण था कि जेस्लर ने कभी अपनी कला से समझौता नहीं किया और एट लास्ट इन द लास्ट डेज ऑफ हिज लाइफ he was a man of principles that never compromised with this art. But as soon as the multinational companies came to this sector and they started making shoes, and with the passing of time, the people who ordered Mr. Jessler for their boots, they soon forgot about the stereo artist and his art. The multinational companies always took the help of the ad companies, and they have not the self-respect according to Mr. Jessler. Jessler के अनुसार जो मल्टीनेशनल कंपनीज़ हैं जो शूज़ बनाती हैं उन्होंने कभी उनके अंदर जो है सेल्फ रेस्पेक्ट नहीं था. दैट वाज द रीज़न दे ऑलवेज कंप्रोमाइज विद द क्वालिटी. दीज बिग फर्म्स हैव ऑलवेज कंप्रोमाइज विद द क्वालिटी. उन्होंने हमेशा जो है क्वालिटी से कंप्रोमाइज़ किया और यही इसका रीज़न था दैट द boot and shoes made by these multinational companies were not last long. It was one of the time that writer visited the shop of Mr. Jessler. उसने एक बार उसकी जो दुकान थी, उसकी जो शॉप थी, उसको विजिट किया. At the time the writer was wearing the shoes of a different company, and soon the cobbler saw these shoes and he says to the writer that this shoe will make him a problem. Yes, this was the art of Mr. Jessler, that he felt that the multinational companies, these big firms, have not the self-respect. Jessler has never made the shoes what he was not ordered. वो कभी अपने आप से जूते नहीं बनाता था और हमेशा वही जूते बनाता था जो उसको ऑर्डर दिया जाता था. As I told you that these were the some rules of his life. In other way we can say that he was the man of principles who never compromised with the rules and regulations of his business. And in the result, in other way you can say Jessler failed to change himself according to time. He was not ready to change himself according to time. So it was the event of his life. It was an accident for him that very soon there was a demotion in his business. धीरे धीरे उसकी जो बिजनेस थी उसमें गिरावट आने लगी. Now Jessler was forced to close the shop, because he was unable to give the rent, even the rent of the shop, because people were not interested in his shoes and they have not time for that, because Jessler always made the shoes which he was ordered. So this is the whole story, that Jessler was not ready to compromise his rules of business, and in the reason By this reason, there was decrease in his business. Now, Gessler was forced to close his shop. Now, with the passing of time, once the writer visited the shop of Mr. Gessler, then he came to know that there was a lack of orders in the business of Mr. Gessler. जेसलर के काम में बहुत गिरावट आ गई थी, अब लोग उसको ऑर्डर नहीं देते थे. So when the writer came to know the pathetic condition of this stereo artist, at once he was sympathized with him and he ordered many pair of boots. उसे उस पर दया आ गई और उसने मिस्टर जेसलर को कई जोड़ी जूतों का ऑर्डर दे दिया. अब जब उसने ऑर्डर दे दिया, नाउ Gessler met the shoes on time and the writer got the shoes in time, and that was the reason that when he ordered many pair of boots, now for a long time, 1 or 2 years, he went out of London and he can't visit to the shop of Mr. Gessler. वो मिस्टर जेसलर की शॉप पर नहीं पहुंच पाया बिकॉज उसके पास कई जोड़ी जूते हो गए थे. बट आफ्टर लॉन्ग टाइम व्हेन ही रिटर्न टू लंदन, जब काफ़ी लंबे समय के बाद राइटर लंदन में आता है और व्हेन ही सॉ दैट द साइनबोर्ड ऑफ जेसलर ब्रदर्स वाज नॉट आउट ऑफ द शॉप एंड व्हेन ही इंटर्ड द शॉप, जब उस दुकान में एंट्री करता है तो देखता है देयर वाज अ यंग मैन in the shop, and when the writer asked this young man about Mr. Gessler, then he came to know about the shocking news that Mr. Gessler, who was the owner of this shop, he was died last month. Last month उसकी जो है death हो गई. He was a true shoemaker who never compromised with the quality of his boots. He always used to make good boots. But it was the pathetic end of this true artist that the writer was again shocked when he came to know, Mr. Galsworthy came to know that this true artist was died due to hunger. कि एक सच्चा कलाकार जो है वो भूख से मर गया. At the last, he never got the full meal of 2 times in a day due to the decrease in his business. Now, it was the pathetic end of this true artist life. ये उसकी जो कहानी थी, उसका जो he was a true artist who was devoted to his art, एक सच्चा कलाकार जो अपनी कला को समर्पित था. दिस वॉज द पैथेटिक एंड ऑफ हिज लाइफ. ये उसकी जीवन का बहुत ही दर्दनाक अंत हुआ. एंड एट लास्ट द राइटर वॉज सिंपैथाइज्ड विद दिस पर्सन दैट व्हाट ही कुड डू टू मिस्टर जेसलर. जो कुछ वह कर सकता था उसने किया. बट एट लास्ट ही वॉज एग्री विद द यंग मैन दैट ऑल्दो ही वॉज अ ट्रू आर्टिस्ट, वो सच्चा आर्टिस्ट था who never compromised with the quality of his boots and he used to made good boots. बच्चों, ये अंत है that the industrialization gave us the result that with this throat cut competition of this world, the small businessman like small artist like Gessler can't save their business, and they got a pathetic end before the time of industrialization, and the multinational companies have destroyed his business completely. Now it is a complete story, and with this I am going to close the chapter. Okay students, goodbye.